Hi Sparks! Welcome to Council Time. Today we're going to be talking about the fall. But before we get into our lesson, I want to introduce with an analogy. So do you guys have any rules at your house? Like, maybe I have a couple written up on the whiteboard. You clean your room, go to bed when you're told. How about take out the trash when it's full? Or maybe eating all of your dinner? What are some other rules? Maybe something that's specific to your house. Maybe you can only have 2 toys out, or you have to do your homework before you can eat a dessert. Well, today we're going to talk about the fall, and God created the earth just like what Mrs. Smoots said in her previous lesson. And God had one rule for Adam and Eve. And it wasn't a rule like keep your room clean. It wasn't a rule like always brush your teeth. It was do not take from one tree. Now with that, I'm going to start our lesson today. So the lesson we are talking about today is found in Genesis 3, verses 1 through 24. God showed Adam all of the animals so that Adam could name all of them. While he was naming animals, Adam noticed that every animal had a partner. Would there be a partner for Adam? Adam was the first man who ever lived. God created him from the dust of the earth and breathed life into him. God knew Adam would be lonely by himself, so he had a plan to create a partner for Adam. God caused Adam to fall asleep. And then, while he was asleep, he took one of his ribs from his torso and created Eve. God took care of Adam and Eve, and he gave them many trees with lots of fruit to eat. God said that the trees are for you to enjoy and for you to eat off of. You can eat off of all of them, except for the tree of good and evil, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. If you do, something terrible called death will happen to you. Adam and Eve did not know what death was because no one had ever died. They were the first 2 people on the earth. One day, Eve was walking through the garden alone when she heard a strange noise. Eve started to look around to see who was talking to her. While she was looking at the tree in the middle of the garden, she saw a snake. It was talking to her. What Eve didn't know was it was really Satan who was talking to her through a snake. The snake said, "Did God really say you should not eat of the fruit?" Sorry, let me start over. Did God really say you should not eat the fruit from any tree in the garden? The snake said, "God said we may eat the fruit from any tree except for the one in the middle. Neither shall you touch it." That was the tree of knowledge. That was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Eve replied, "God said something terrible would happen to us if we ate any fruit from that tree." Snake said, "Nothing terrible will happen to you. In fact, God knows that if you eat some of the fruit, you will be just like God. You will know the difference between right and wrong. You will be powerful." Eve looked at the fruit on the tree and thought, "The fruit is beautiful. It looks really tasty too. Besides, it'll make me wise like God. Nothing terrible could happen to us." So she chose to pick some of the fruit and she ate it. Then Eve also gave some of the fruit to Adam. When Adam saw the beautiful fruit, Eve had brought him, he could have chose to take the fruit from her. He chose to take the fruit from her, and he ate it. Suddenly, Adam and Eve began to feel unhappy. Nothing seemed as beautiful or as nice as it was before. Adam and Eve knew that they had disobeyed God. When they heard God in the garden, they ran and hid from him. "Adam, where are you?" God called out, but Adam didn't answer. God said it again. "Adam, where are you?" Do you think God knew where they were? He knew where they were. Finally, Adam said, "I hear you calling," and I was afraid, so I ran and I hid. God knew that what Adam and Eve had done, but he wanted them to confess or tell him. "Did you eat from the tree I told you not to eat from?" "Eve gave it to me," said Adam. "But the snake told me to eat it," said Eve. How sad God was. "You have disobeyed me," he said. "Adam, you and Eve must leave the garden. From now on, things will be harder for you. You will have to plant your own garden for food, and you will not be as happy as you were here." Adam and Eve were sad. Something terrible had happened to them, just as God said it would. Adam and Eve knew that they had done wrong and deserved to be punished. They had a consequence. So they put on the clothes God gave them, which they were made from animal skins, and walked slowly and sadly out of the garden that had been their home for so long. They were never, ever allowed to come back into that garden again. God had that one rule for a very important reason. It was there to protect them. So Adam and Eve thought that they could be like God and that they could be all powerful and know everything that was going to happen. But that's not true. And Satan used that snake to lie to them and get them to sin. That's why it's called the fall. It's when Adam and Eve sin, and that introduces sin into our world. So you can think back onto this story and think about how loving God was. He knew that they had done something wrong, but he wanted to teach Adam and Eve that what they did was wrong and that it was not okay. And yeah, God seems like a big bully when he tells them you can't come into the garden. But he's not. He's all powerful, and he told them, you will know what death is. And life would be much harder. He had the one rule there for them so that they would know what obedience was. And unfortunately, they chose to sin and listen to Satan. Well, if you have any questions, I encourage you to reread Genesis 3 and ask your Sparky leaders, your mom and dad, maybe an older sibling, and talk to them about any questions you have. All right, see you guys next week.